I'm Brian Laborde, the Executive Plan Administrator for the DBM Global Medical Plan. This is the first of what we hope to be many videos to help educate and answer key questions for our members. I'm here with somebody who needs no introduction. This is Rustin Roach, our CEO. So Rustin, our medical plan is a fast-growing alternative to the traditional medical plan. What was the situation that you were presented with, and how did we get here?
Well, first, let me say I didn't realize we were going to be in the insurance business. I thought we were just in construction. However, I think you have to look back where we've came from and understand a little of that on what's influenced us. Back in, what was the start of the change? 2015, 16?
Yeah.
We were faced with an increase in plan premiums going from, I think it was about 8 million or so up to 13 million. So almost a $5 million increase that would have to be shared between both the company and the employee. And what really was disturbing wasn't, well, that's definitely a lot of money, and we obviously want to cut costs where we can, but not take away experience, etc., is how the premiums with the traditional insurance companies are actually formulated. And as we began to get more in control and more in control of the data, you start to realize I'm going to make up a word, the incestuality that exists between the insurance company, the hospital, and then ultimately the TPAs or the third-party administrators. So, I'll give you an instance, and obviously we can't use specifics. There are things that a plan covers and things that a plan does not cover, and it's very black and white in the plan. There's certain types of drugs that are covered, there's certain types of services that are covered, and then there's things that are just, again, openly excluded. What we found through our experience with one of the later providers was they were approving items of experimental nature, for one instance, that was covered as part of our plan. And how it works for those that don't know is, the total cost of your premiums is really a derivative of your total healthcare spend. And your total healthcare spend is how much are we being billed by all the services that our employees and other members are getting from the hospitals, the doctors, and what have you. In this instance, there was 2 charges that total over $1 million. And when you start digging into that, it starts to really open your eyes, and you start to question, I said it is incestuality, that's there, but you start to question the integrity really that is within some of these businesses. So we started to ask questions too. In this case, it was a rather large provider, and we said, look, we'd like to see what you paid for these services. And what's even more disturbing isn't the fact that they covered a service that was excluded as part of our plan, but more so that they wouldn't tell us what they paid the hospital or the doctor in this case for the same service. So what you start to see is they are motivated to actually drive up the amount that is covered underneath your plan in any given year as high as possible, because they then turn and they hand that here, Shuff Steel, or here, DBM Burcon, or here, company XYZ. This is how much you spent last year, so your premiums are going up. So, now we're just going to pass this on to you. You need to pay for it. And it just was not something that, we had a palate for. Obviously, we're sensitive to any increase in cost. There's been an extreme amount of, I think, effort and awareness paid to not only the employee, but really the experience, right? And that an employee is getting at one of these doctor visits, etc. And we've definitely heard, the share of horror stories that we're continuing to work on and continuing to improve the plan. But all of this was done with one thing. We didn't want to pass on the cost of this extremely, almost ridiculous amount of premiums that we saw, number one. And we wanted to find a better, more economical, and a way to allow the employee to not also participate in their premiums rising. So we went down the path of really where we are today. And I think every year it goes by, we're getting smarter and smarter, and we're continuing to make modifications to our own plan. Again, all with the intent of providing the best healthcare and the best experience for all of our members. So,
there's some members that have asked, well, the insurance company pays that. Can you tell them the difference between a self-funded and a traditional insurance, and why we're self-funded?
So the biggest piece I would say is the insurance company doesn't pay for anything. The insurance company actually combines everything and they pass that on to you, and they say, now this is what the cost of your health plan is, and we're going to raise your premiums because the cost of your coverage has gone up. When we're in the self-funded plan, we really wanted to take control over what that spend would be, and we actually got transparency to see what the cost of these services actually are. And for years, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, whether it's Aetna, whether it's United Healthcare, whoever it is, we never had the transparency into that data. Now that we have that data, we're a much smarter consumer and we're in control of where we're going, and we're obviously focused on continuing to build that experience for all of our members.
So the path we've chosen takes more engagement and participation from the members. What is your perspective on that engagement and additional participation, and how that should make it better for them?
Well, I mean, it's no different than if you're going to buy, a hamburger or a steak at a restaurant, right? I mean, you have a menu of options that you can choose from. You have a variety of doctors you can look to seek to get said service performed. No difference than if you want a New York strip, you can go to Mastro's or you can go to Longhorn, and while they're comparable pieces of meat, I think the quality of one is way higher than the other, but it's up to the consumer. If they want to pay that additional dollar amount, then great, they have that choice. So that's really been, it's really about being a better consumer and putting the power and the authority on ultimately the consumer, which is the member in this case. So I think that answers what you're asking.
It does. One final question. We've received some feedback from members that the decision to go to this model was based purely on business and didn't have regard to our most important asset, our people. Can you give us your perspective on that?
I don't laugh, meaning I don't take it seriously. I find that many times questions come out of people not understanding what we're going through and what ultimately the cost of some of these things are. We in no case wanted to go to an employee and say, the cost of your healthcare insurance is now going to increase, double what it was last year, because we didn't believe the numbers were being presented, and the more and more we dug, we realized how they were quantified, and we don't believe the data, so we took control of it. I think that none of us are perfect, but I think the intent that we're trying to do is provide, a more than comparable and adequate service for all of our staff and all of our employees, all of our members, and also do it at a competitive price that's in the market. I think if you look at the way we are structured right now, there's different percentages. I think as an employee only on the plan, the company covers 92 or 93% of the cost of your plan, right? That's pretty good. And if you're an employee and a spouse, I think it drops to, is it 80%?
About 83, yeah.
83% and so forth. And we're trying to get and maintain in that at least 80-20 range. And we're going to continue to look to modify how we are doing these things. I think as many people will see, and I know you're aware, we are looking at ways to package these healthcare options to them that may lessen some of the impact to them when they have an instance or when they need the care. Not many people, don't have the ability to pay some of these out-of-pocket expenses up front. I get that. I will say it's no different than any other plan. Whether you're with an Aetna or a Blue Cross Blue Shield or a United or whoever, they'd be faced with the same circumstances. So to me, I think that, again, the goal is to keep healthcare for all of us at a marketable and reasonable price, while also continuing to improve the experience. And look, we're not perfect. We're trying to break down and work through these issues. I think we've done a really good job managing the balance bills and some of the other things that have come out. There's no doubt that there's still room for improvement, and hopefully the plan modifications that I think will be finalized and announced here in the coming weeks/months will serve to do that. So
perfect. Well, thank you for spending time with us, and thank you for your feedback, and give us any additional questions you have. We will try and answer them.